says, in his little note, the pony is not in a rug, but was a very handsome Argentine mare who won the Polo Pony Championship at the Royal Windsor Horse Show 3 times running in the 1980s. I don't need the photo back. I hope it's a help. So that was my request for polo ponies with their rugs on them, because when Anna Maria and the bishop arrived at Lord Patrick's home in Berkshire, they were wrapped in polo pony rugs, because they had come up with the consignment of polo ponies. So that's how Anna Maria, I know for definite, went up from the South Atlantic all the way up to the north with the polo ponies. Okay, so that's in 1980. And that's my home in Petersfield in Hampshire. So that's where they went to live. This one here. And this is the only photograph that I have of the portraits in my home. So that's my daughter Carolyn, she's probably about 20. And Anna Maria was there, that was my dining room. And on the other side was the bishop. And in that other frame had hung a portrait that had been painted of me when she was born in Lima, Peru. That's another story. So that's the only image I have of them at my home. Then when Carolyn married, she went to live in East Diston, not too far from home, and I lent her the bishop and Anna Maria. So she had them in her dining room. And this is Christmas. Do you notice anything? And there's the bishop peeking out from behind the Christmas tree. Okay? And then Carolyn moved house. So that's my first granddaughter. I'm known as Mooley. So that's Katie when she was a little girl. And she's now 19. And there Carolyn had Jack. And so there's Anna Maria when Carolyn moved house. So there she is. And there's the bishop over her mantelpiece. Okay. So they stayed there. So this is like 2006, more or less, when that was taken. And it's such a long story how I got hold of Gemma. I just looked up Runnymede or something or other. I then got in touch with her. And then she introduced me to Dr. Keith Atkins, and I said I had these portraits of the bishop and his wife, and Keith wrote back and said, oh no, they can't be the portraits. That there must be some prints that you have. And then he quoted a book by Clifford Craig, Gillian, called Old Tasmanian Prince, which was printed in came out in about 1962. And there's one little paragraph, and it says Nixon's on top, I do believe. And it talks about the portraits, and George Richmond did them. And the final sentence of the paragraph says, the whereabouts of these portraits is unknown. Well, of course, where were they? Where had they been for years? In Buenos Aires. So I spoke on the phone to the associate curator at the Natural Portrait Gallery in London, Paul Cox, and I talked about these portraits, and he said, well, you know, if you send me pictures of them, I'll tell you if they're anything. I didn't know anything about them. I had no idea. Never been told that they were special, just didn't know anything about them. So I put Anna Maria and the bishop. Do you see his frame? That didn't, Anna Maria's frame was so damaged that I had it reframed badly, but nevertheless. So I stuck them out in the garden, and I got them from Carolyn's, put them out in my garden, took these pictures, and sent them to Paul Cox. And he writes, can you see it? Yes. Okay? But even then, that didn't mean much to me, because who was George Richmond? Copy of the letter went to Keith Atkins, and Keith told me about George Richmond book, which I then bought. And at the back of the book, there's pages and pages and pages of George Richmond's works of art, portraiture mostly. And one page it says Mrs. Nixon, 15 guineas, 1843. And then another page under Tasmania it says Bishop of, 1843, 15 guineas. And he also made a copy of the portrait for Gladstone. So Bishop must have been chummy with Gladstone. I don't. So, right. So now I tell Gemma and I make a decision, these portraits must go back to Tasmania. Well, not that Maria was ever here, but I wanted them to stay together. So the decision is made to send them back to Tasmania. So this is the photograph. You see how badly water damaged. You can really see it there. And you'll see the improvement in the portraits as they hang here. So this is a professional photograph of the portrait just taken out of the frame at home in Petersfield. And there he is, all wrapped up by a wonderful group of people called Gentle Giants who do movings and wrappings. And they knew this is a letter from Chris Tassel, to whom it may concern, saying that these portraits were going for the benefit of the Australian Customs. These portraits were coming to the National Trust here. And the address is National Trust of Australia, Tasmania, State Headquarters, Franklin House, Hobart Road, Launceston, Tasmania. And there's Anna Maria. You see how damaged? And you can, I think you can still see the blemish on her cheek, can't you? Yeah, yeah. But she's been greatly improved too. There she is, all wrapped up. And I put those two great big parcels onto my luggage carrier, trundled down to the Petersfield post office, and there's proof positive that I posted on parcel 4. And there she is, unwrapped. And it took Linda Clark, the conservation manager, 30 minutes just to unwrap the portraits. And that little piece of paper up there is called glassine paper, of which I had to buy 100 so as to cover the two portraits, because it was something that you couldn't buy less than. And so there they are, there she is, Anna Maria unwrapped in Tasmania. So from October 2012 to today, the 22nd of May 2014, only these famous sitters could clearly tell us all they were lovingly subjected to until this very special moment in their 171 years. Thank you.
We've had a very enlightening talks on the Nixon family today, and we've learnt quite a lot, or I've learnt quite a lot, and I guess you have too. It's interesting of the bishop and his travels on the Beacon, and how he was concerned with the people and all of those things. That some of the history that we've had sort of, well, in my view, hasn't sort of covered that area, the humanity of him so much, and that, no, I think that's great. Thank you for that. And Margaret, well, those portraits are wonderful, and we're very appreciative of the fact that they are here. But the journey of them is quite interesting, and thank you for sharing that with us. It's, you know, they're quite well travelled, much more than I am. And as a token of their esteem for the thanks for the talk, would you please accept this small gift?
Thank you, Paul, very much.
Now, I realise that everyone probably has 100 questions to ask of both of our speakers, but what we're going to do is allow them to wander around your tables over afternoon tea, because we realise we're probably going for a cup of tea. And both Margaret and Marion will be happy to sort of wander around, or if you have a question that you'd like to come up to and ask them, please do. We've been picking Margaret's brain since she's been here. And I will say, do go into the study after afternoon tea and have a look at those beautiful portraits, and also down the hallway to see the lovely sketches that we have of Nixon's. And it is an absolute treasure to have Margaret here. We've been carting her around the countryside looking at Nixon things.
I mean, she is responsible for everything. Believe me, if it wasn't for Gemma, the Bishop and Anna Maria would not be here. It's truly her loveliness and her dedication. Thank you. Do you mind? Do you mind?